Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm the Game Master. I cover everything Pathfinder 2nd Edition, including in-depth adventure path reviews, tips for players, and hints on how to hit the Elite template on your GMing. I'm also a full-time professional Game Master, so if you'd like to play a game with me, check me out on startplaying.com, links below. Today we're continuing our deep dive into the Abomination Vaults. The last adventure saw us needing the implements of the Rose Guard in order to break the Spectral Seal and continue the adventure. The first two should be pretty easy to get their hands on, but as they are returning to town, they will see a trail of smoke rising from the Dawnflower Library. The fire is under control, but Vandy is irate. The fire was a cover for the theft of the cooperative blade by Carmen, who has escaped. In my game, Doriana had disappeared with him. I had aged her up considerably and made her Carmen's girlfriend. Osef should be on the scene as well, fielding questions and helping to direct the efforts to put out the fire. Whether it's through Vandy or Osef or someone else, the PCs should quickly find out about Smuggler's Cove, which I said was sort of like a local hangout for the kids to go and party at, but it should be known that Carmen also spends time there as well, and it should be one of the first places that the PCs go to investigate. In the cave, the PC should find Carmen, racked with nerves as he is desperately trying to figure out what to do next. In my game, Doriana was there as well with him, trying to calm him down and convince him to do the right thing and to bring it back to Otari. Carmen should feel very conflicted about this, as unless you're playing him just as like a full-on bad guy, he should know that what he did was wrong, but also have enough, pride in him to feel like he is owed the blade because it belonged to his ancestor, Valrajani, one of the original members of the Rose Guard. The situation is the big payoff for all of the tension that you've been building. This is the climax of all of the social breadcrumbs that you've been dropping this entire time before this in Otari. Rolls should be necessary for this, but really, unless your party is just dead set on killing him, the encounter should end probably with Carmen heading back to Otari to help to face the music. If you're looking for another piece of foreshadowing, I had Carmen talk a bit about his past during this encounter. He told the party about a bounty hunter that had been tracking him down and that he had jumped into a boat and left this bounty hunter behind in Absalom. Something he talks about with a little bit of pride. And I bring this up because on the prison level, you will actually find this bounty hunter who was sent out to bring him in actually by the devils. It's a very small detail, but it's worth bringing up just to give them sort of give the party this aha moment when they find this person. Because otherwise they have no real context. They've never heard of this person if you don't bring it up now. So it just gives them a little bit of a hint for something later on. Once they had returned, I had Doriana beg for mercy from her father, Osef, who wanted Carmen to be locked up, possibly even executed. My party made some rolls and ended up with Carmen being jailed, but released during the day in order to work at the blacksmith shop. Osef warned Carmen away from his daughter, which she, of course, promptly ignored. They would occasionally see her sneaking in a few times into the blacksmith shop in order to see him. For the most part, though, this was the conclusion of this part of this one particular storyline. Of course, you can expand and change things at the end, but this ended up being a fairly satisfying conclusion for my party. After bringing back the implements of the Rose Guard and placing them into the altar on the level above, the way is clear for the party to move down to the next level, the arena. This next area is sort of under the control of the Suagathis. I think that's how you say that. Mad scientist worm guys. But they've been working on flesh warping projects for Belcora this entire time. But I'm gonna be honest, it was hard for me to wrap my head around how to role play these things. The mad scientist angle is the obvious one, but there's not really, the adventure path doesn't really give you much in the way to convey that. So it's going to be up to you to maybe spread around some notes or some diagrams or like dissection pictures or something, talking about like monster abilities and temperaments, sort of like their case studies on different things. But if you have an idea on how to roleplay these better, please drop it in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys did with these creatures. At the bottom of the stairs, they're going to run into a couple of old friends, 2 Grotholds and a Gibbering Mouther. Both of these creatures will have will saves that need to be passed. It's not likely to be too much of a problem, but in case your player's dice are bad, this could potentially be a difficult encounter. After they've been dealt with, the stairs are right there, and the players could continue down. They should know at this point that that would be a really bad idea, but if they are dead set on doing it, my advice is just to let them. There's kind of a fine line between giving like helpful hints and being pushy as a GM. I flat out just told my players that each level was designed for their current like player level, and so if they want to forge ahead with that in mind, go ahead and let them. That being said, sometimes you don't have a choice. In the large monster holding area, they'll run into the sister of an old friend of theirs, the Velstrak that they fought on the level above. The party is likely to have some pretty bad memories of that fight, so I know mine did, so it should be a bit easier now that they're a level higher, but that's not the only thing in this room for them to contend with. The rusted grate in the central part of the eastern section of this room can drop if they step onto it and require a grab and edge check in order to not fall. The PCs who do fall will land in the level below, and they're going to be in for a rough time. Fortunately, they're not dropped right into the middle of a pile of monsters, but any direction they go in will contain more creatures. It's only a 40-foot drop, though, so if they do stay put and just stay where they are, not very likely, I realize, but if they do, and wait out the fight above, it should be a simple job just to drop down a rope and pull them back up. North of that is a pretty straightforward encounter. The big surprise here for the players will be that the monsters in this one are actually able to move through the bars, and the doors don't even need to be open for them to come attack them. I've got to point out some of the great artwork on these creatures as well here too. Personally, I think that Abomination Vaults has the most consistent high-level quality artwork of any AP that I've seen. In other APs, it can be very inconsistent with the styles that are presented, and honestly, sometimes the quality. I know that Paizo is a very small company, and so I'm not hating on them for that. But it can be somewhat jarring sometimes to see the very drastic changes in artwork from room to room or from monster to monster, whatever it may be. But for this one, they really went all out, and I do appreciate it. The Surgical Suite is home to a poltergeist that basically tries to jump scare your party. Something to keep in mind with this one is that the lights here trigger its sunlight powerlessness, and so it's going to be clumsy too and slowed too until it can get out of the light. If you're on Foundry like I am, you can use the light controls here to see exactly how far out the light extends, because it's going to prioritize getting out of the light before doing anything else. Being incorporeal, it can fly just straight through the party and get into the shadows, but then it'll attack as usual. And don't forget its frightful presence as well as it moves to escape. Here in the security checkpoint, the party is going to run into the old assassin of Belcora. Her name is Siora Fallowglade? I always want to say Fallowblade. Seems more fantasy-ish. Fallowglade. This is a really tough fight for my parties. I don't normally do the flying through walls and hiding in different rooms thing, but this area is pretty much designed for it. If your party's not using light sources, she can use her Slink in Shadows ability to hide and sneak in the shadow of a PC, and I would assume the rest of the shadows in this room. And with her already having like a very high to hit bonus, this fight can be a lot. The Elite Viewing Room has 2 squabbling poltergeists that desperately want to leave the room. That's kind of weird because they can leave the room anytime, but I think it's implied here that they don't know that they're dead. It says that their fear has overwhelmed them, but it's still kind of a strange encounter, honestly. in order to get this to play off right, I think that have the party overhear this argument from outside of the door and make it obvious that they think that they're still alive. When the party opens the door, have the poltergeist be like more afraid of the party than anything else. And if the party makes it known that the way forward is clear, then they just leave. It does take some work to get this to work how I think it's supposed to play off. So just take some time to think about how you're going to present it to your party if you want to run this as it was written. This also might be their first look at the behemoth that's lying in the center of the arena. This is likely to strike some real fear into your players. Mine did all they could to avoid this thing. I think my parties ended up fighting it eventually, but at this point they wanted no part of it. And really at this level, that is perfectly okay. This is more just a thing to frighten them, which honestly they're very likely going to be anyway. Sense of fear was something that was generally always with my party in this campaign, but this thing really sets off the alarm bells. So just have it there as being like almost like a Chekhov's gun later on for your campaign. The sentencing chamber was a very interesting encounter both times I ran it. Both of these creatures are basically designed in order to use their bouncing slam to shove the PCs into the pit. If that happens, they're going to fall into the next level below and right into the middle of an underground lake where there's 2 sleeping hydras. This is a death sentence for anybody who falls in, potentially if they don't escape quickly. When I had a PC fall in, I gave them plenty of notice that there was something bad in the water, and they're not going to attack right away because you're not looking to kill PCs, right? I gave them a round to realize what was about to happen and a chance to get out of the water. And then also remember that the hydras are slowed to, I think that's just all they are, in the beginning. And any PC with an ounce of brains in their head is going to realize that this is the time to run for their lives. If, after all that, they hang out and fight, that's on them. E17, the imprisoned administrator, is going to play out in a lot of different ways depending on just what kind of a party you have. Chefkem is a mummy who is imprisoned centuries ago and has been trying to escape ever since. Naturally, the party isn't going to be very trustful here, but I played Chefkem as being fairly friendly, as he desperately just wants to get out of the room and really has no reason to fight the party. He blames Jafiki, I don't know how you say his name, the Siogothi leader, for his demotion and his imprisonment. But actually, he's wrong about the second point, because it was actually a devil that locked him into this room. If they do make friends with him, he does have some good knowledge that he can pass down to the party. One of my parties was fine with him, and the other had a very strict no undead policy. And so if they do decide to fight, he is very strong. He actually did manage to escape during that fight, and I had him return later with some other monsters in tow to attack Otari later on. That was a pretty fun encounter as well. So just kind of get what you're going to say to the party and how you're going to present Chefkem to the party, depending on how you think they're going to be open to and sort of what you want the result of the encounter to be. E21, the secret hallway, has a pretty nasty trap inside of it. It's got a ton of attacks, and even after it's done with those, it has like a randomized attack to target potentially like another hallway or another space during its term. If you're like me and you hate reading all these in-depth trap mechanics right in the middle of a fight, just use the text tool and create some hidden text that has the different hallways like marked on it, hidden from your party. So that way when you roll the D4 thing, it asks you to roll a D4, and depending on the result is where like its last attack goes. I just use the text tool and give myself some hidden text, just area 1, area 2, area 3, just so I didn't have to read over the whole thing again as I'm doing the fight. Chefkem does know the password to turn it off, so he can use that as a bargaining chip for his life if you think the party will be open to this. But yeah, I remember this was a pretty nasty one. So the party here has got a lot of like twists and turns to try and get out. So it's they're going to need, I think that they didn't even end up disarming this one. They just had to run. So it's pretty nasty. The sludge-filled room has a viscous black pudding inside of it, and it's a fairly straightforward encounter, but I did want to make one point here. The pudding does direct damage to weapons and armor with its acid, but take note here that armor works differently with the broken condition than other objects. It still conveys an AC bonus. It's not like a weapon that is just broken. It still conveys an AC bonus, but there's just a penalty to it. It's a -1 to light armor, -2 to medium armor, and -3 to heavy armor. So just keep that in mind. It is a good idea to take note before the session of what kinds of armor your party has, and then use the material statistics so that way you know what the HP is, what the broken threshold is. Just make a quick note before your session, just so you've got all that stuff already written down and you're not having to look it up, because that stuff can save you some time. And I'm all about just like keeping the action moving instead of having to, refer to the chart, which is not what anybody wants to be doing in the middle of their session. The encounter in the mead hall is fairly straightforward, but it does provide the party with another opportunity to make a terrible decision. The teleportation circle here isn't part of the larger network here in the Abomination vaults. It is just connected to the, it is still active, and it's connected to the space below it. And it's a really, really, really bad fight. There's another like fighting arena place, and it has a large lizard with a lot of sonic attacks, if I remember correctly, and it's an extremely brutal fight. They're not ready for it. And so fortunately, running upstairs isn't too difficult. There's a set of stairs not too far away from where they will drop down, which is really going to be their best option to just run. Really, at the end of this level, the lesson they'll learn is to never touch anything or go anywhere, because everything is just terrible. That really is just the lesson of this entire level. This level is a little bit different than some of the other ones in that it says that the Suagathi are in charge down here, but you never run into any of them, and there's really nobody who's actively running this place. It is just a series of monsters, and that's okay. I do find this level to be, I don't want to say dull, but it's just the most straightforward of them, certainly more than the levels that came before. There's also no real friendly NPCs to like convey information through unless your party makes friends with Chefchem. So if you want to like put in your own social encounters, if you want to put in your own stuff, I feel like this is a space to do it. To insert NPCs or something if you want to do that, because aside from that, there's not a lot else going on besides just clearing the monsters out. But it's still I still had a lot of fun with this level, but it's just the most straightforward so far. And that's it. All the major encounters for the arena. I'll be back with another installment of this and other episodes soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you like what you saw and you want to play a game with me, check me out on startplaying.com or check out my Discord. Both links for both of those are below. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and write me a comment if you have any more suggestions for videos that you'd like to see. I'm always open to hear about new topics, so let me know what you'd like to be checking out. I'll see you next time. This has been The Game Master.